When using the eyes, there's going to be a couple extra attributes on the eye and eye socket controls that are unique to the rigs here at ProRigs. You'll notice that we have the option of lids follow eyes, and this is a great automated function to have the eyelids follow the eyeballs. So you'll notice if we go ahead and move the eyes left and right, we will get some tugging on the lid. If we set this down to 0, we will get no tugging, and everything of the lids will have to be manually animated. So if you wanted those lids to follow, you'll need to go in and drag them over. If you want full help and complete automation, you can crank that all the way to 1, and you will notice the 1-to-1 relationship between moving the eye and the lid translating with it. I don't recommend this unless you are comfortable with counter animating the eyelids to not feel 1-to-1 to the eye. The reason we left the 0.3 as the default for this character and just about every character in the pack is that it gives the believability that the eye is connected to the lid without the robotic feeling of the 1-to-1. Of course, this is a slider value from 0 to 1, so you as the animator get to decide how you want it to help you. So I'm going to set that back to 0.3 and we'll continue on. Next option is the pupil dilate. So we can go ahead and have your character to react to environmental settings such as light or brightness or darkness, or if your character has eaten too much sugar or anything of the sort. So that's really fun to play around with, and of course we can set that back to 0.8. I believe 0.8 is a nice comfortable pupil size for all of these characters. A nice advanced function on these eyes and pupils as well is you'll notice that when your character is looking really far to one angle, we really start to lose a lot of that pupil. And you'll notice a lot of animators in the past will have to unbury the pupil to do so. But the problem with this is now one eye looks like it's looking very far and one looks like it's not looking as much. So you can mitigate this issue one of two ways. You can use the pupil and just go ahead and roll that backwards so you get to see a bit more pupil. Or vice versa, you can track the eye back a little bit and then scoot the pupil back over. But this is giving you the choice as the animator to unbury those pupils to really help sell the appeal in the circle. You can also do it if your character is looking down and to one angle. If you want the eye's shape, the iris, exactly where it is, but you don't like where the pupil is, you can go ahead and push those up so they're resting nicely along. You can see that may look a little strange, so we might want to pump those down, but having the ability to move the pupils can be very beneficial. Next is going to be the iris. It's basically a rinse and repeat of the pupils, but I will go ahead and demo them for you anyways. You can see here with the iris dilate, we can go ahead and make them smaller or larger to react to the same stimuli as talked about with pupils. However, a difference here is going to be the squash and stretch. This function, even though it is attached to the iris section because that's where it's seen most, it is applying to everything here. You can see that this is not necessarily something that you would want to leave your character in unless you would like it to be very creepy. This is more used for the eyes to dart from one side to the other. So if your character was over here and you very quickly wanted your character to look over here, your middle frame, essentially, or that in between, can be a stretch. So it will have a nice smear across from one to the other, allowing the viewer and the audience to stay tracked to those eyes. You will also see that if you would like, you can change the squash stretch rotation ever so slightly. Below that is again a rinse and repeat of the highlight. So we can dilate the highlight more for an aesthetic appeal than anything else. You can also adjust where that highlight is on the eye. So of course, if we set these back to 0, 0, that will be the dead center of the eye. And then we can go ahead and position it where we'd like. You'll notice right now, If I move the eye though, it's going to slightly follow the eye. And this again is somewhat like the lids. We can dictate how much we want the eye's highlight to stay pinned to the eye. Right now, if we want it to feel a bit more realistic, we can leave it where it is. Of course, then as the animator, you may have to do some animation, so we do recommend letting this stay at a somewhat low value. So you do feel the movement as if this is a real surface, but for the most part, the light is not moving, so it's going to stay in the same location on the eye. Again, this just allows for the animator to choose how they want their scene set up or their character set up, and we believe this is a very nice to have.